So please remember, we are recording. If you don't want your faces, your name, just remove the face and the name, but stay there. Okay, so we continue with Joanna de Angelis, right? And we are going to be seeing the chapter 14. Let me just fix my screen here too. It's not allowing me to do more than that. Let me see. Okay. All right. So today we are in the book Alert by Joanna de Angelis, the medium Divaldo Franco. And we are going to be studying chapter 14 that talks about fraternal commitment. But it's a different kind of fraternal commitment. So let's see what Joanna de Angelis is going to talk to us here. Never forget in your spiritual undertakings the discarnate companions in the rear guard of the evolutionary process is still submerged in nameless pain or in inconsolable despair. Perhaps you cannot hear or see or even feel them. They, however, live in the same psychosphere, or rather, you find yourself submerged in the same psychic climate in which they navigate, since they have not freed themselves from the conjunctures of the flesh when they experienced the death of their physical remains. They interchange with humans many times without the incarnates having any conscience of it, experiencing their emotions and anxieties, sometimes their passions and problems, some anxious to communicate, others to make themselves understood, many to enjoy their infelicitous vengeances, and countless others wanting to return to reincarnation. In this complex emission absorption of vibrations, they end up influencing the behavior of individuals, creating dependencies, many times becoming dependent as well. Include them in your prayers. Think of them and cooperate with them. So that's a surprising, right? I mean, from the title "Fraternal Commitment," we think, oh, maybe she's going to be talking about charity, or something in this line. Well, she is. In a way, she is talking about being charitable, about helping others. But then she comes and talk about the discarnate companions. There, of course, are not in good shape, spiritually speaking, right? Because they are in the rear guard of evolutionary process, and they are suffering from the um not being capable of understanding exactly what is going on with them, or accepting their new situation. So it's quite a lot of troubles that they go through when returning to the spiritual realm, which will happen to all of us. I mean, we can only imagine that even when we are prepared, I mean, any change, it takes you out from your comfort zone. But here they are talking about the discarnates that are earthbound. They do not have the condition, they do not have the understanding to know, to be able to reason about their situations. They miss their kind of lives on earth, And it is only natural that being earthbound and having the possibility to be in the proximity of spirits that are incarnate, this is what they are going to choose. It's more familiar for them to continue here and live this kind of life than actually to accept what is going on with them and perhaps even to adapt where we are, depending on the situations. And as we see, is not the best one. So they experience and connect with our emotions, with our passions. They may aggravate those things. They may feel eager to return to earth. Of course, they not even understand that this process is reincarnation and everything that encompasses reincarnation, but they wanted to come back. They wanted to stay here. And in a way, sometimes this exchange of energy between them and us can be very damaging to both and may create a relation of codependency that we don't want it to happen. Because here we are not talking about spirits and companions that we would like to be next to us. We are sometimes talking about spirits that are even more disturbing or than we are, right? Okay, what do you want to ask or talk about?
I have a question.
Yes.
And we always learning about the the level of our energy to attack this the different kind of spirits close to us.
Mm-hmm.
Then, but many times when we are pray with the gospel in home, then
Mm-hmm.
I can feel like some spirits coming and listen the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And then how it happened, and
Because they will be attracted. We have to understand that when we are talking about this, that Joanna de Angelis bringing to our attention, we are talking about different categories of spirits. As much as we will have those that are very disturbed, not knowing exactly where they are, where to go, what is happening to them, and they prefer to be around familiar surroundings. There are others that are still not ready to leave, perhaps to commit, but that they are not wicked spirits, and they are looking for places where they can have somehow support. And so our goodwill, our prayers may attract them to, because perhaps those were spirits already accustomed to pray and to do that, because but it doesn't mean that they were ready for everything that was going to happen after they pass. So they are very, very different categories of things. Yes, Philip.
My question is, are there any books or things we can read at this point in our life that will allow us to be better prepared to take advantage of being in the spiritual world?
Well, everything that we are reading already, Philip, I think the main one is always going to be the Spirit's book. The Spirit's book gives us a very clear view about everything. about creation, about the spirit, about incarnation, reincarnation, death, is spiritual world. I think it's the ultimate uh, reading, and that's why it is very important for us to keep on reading it, because we forget. It's a long book, question and answers, and they are very deep, and sometimes when we read some of the answers we see up to a point, and then we read and you see other things, for instance, that were there all the time, but at the first reading, second, third reading, you didn't pay attention. It was not on your focus of attention. So I would say first and foremost to read the Spirit book. Then, of course, all the books from the collection Life in the Spiritual World, it's also a must in this sense. Two or three of them, not necessarily, but the like, the when it talks about the mechanisms of mediumship, or when it talks evolution into world, those two not necessarily, okay, but all the others, because they are much more specific. But all the others, I think it brings a lot of things, even the one in the domain of mediumship, because then it shows exactly what we are talking about here in terms of communicating with spirits. In this sense, I would say, if there is a person that is a newcomer and would like to know, what would you indicate to this person to start reading? Uh, in this order, if the person has not heard at all about spiritism and its set of knowledge, we could say, what is a spiritism? Because it's a very little, very short book that gives you a brief understanding of what it is. Then I would say the spirits book. And in a lighter version, after you read this too, I would say, and life goes on. Then you can go to No Solar, to Messengers, Workers of the Last Hour, and so on, from the collection of Andre Lewis, Life in the Spiritual World. So those, I would say, they give us a very, very broad idea of what it is to come. It's still, when you are on the verge of moving to another country, uh, and some of us, there are foreigners here, immigrants, we will relate to that. We know the language is not going to be our language. Maybe you even master the language, but there is always this case of, not being your mother tongue, and it's always kind of hard for you to communicate as well as you would if it was your native language, um, and all the things about weather, customs, and you can come as prepared as possible. But it's still, when you are here on the day-to-day basis, I remember the first time I moved to London, and thank God it was the UK, it was not the US, because I had to go to the supermarket to buy everything. And I was before those, there at the rows there at the supermarket, looking at the products. I didn't even know what soap, I should buy. There was such a diversity, and none of them were familiar to me. I mean, what I said, thank God it was there and not here, because there the supermarkets are not gigantic as the ones we have here, and they don't have as much choice as we have here, at least not where I was, But it was hard enough. So imagine us getting as much as we can prepared to the inevitable, which we should, right?
Yes.
exactly to prevent what Joanna de Angelis is talking about here. Us going, we all know it's just a matter of time. We all going to return to the spiritual world. I mean, the idea here is two, whether you disappear forever or you go to some place. I prefer to stay with the idea that I will never disappear forever. I like myself too much to think about it. Ay. And so we will continue. So now, if this is a sure destination, I would like to know how better can I prepare
Mhm.
to be affected by it as much as less as possible. And in our case, I think that, this question that you make is very good because we have the possibility to do that.
Yeah, one of the things that comes to mind is many of the stories we've read talk about disorientation of those going into the spiritual world
Mm-hmm.
and not being in a mindset that allows them to see what's around them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what my question is really related to.
Yeah.
What in my mindset should I be thinking about that allows me to see and at least look for opportunity?
Yeah. I would say that's what I used to tell my parents, if if all of a sudden you arrive to a place that doesn't look familiar, no one there, and the whole sensation is kind of funny, different.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably dead. So try to adapt.
Right.
Right, unless you went through an accident, and you can become a little disoriented, going to the hospital not knowing exactly, you go through something. But I mean, as a result of going through an accident or something that may lead to this thing, one of the possibilities is also that it's over, you're already in another realm. So I always, this is one thing that I when I can, I tell people to do. Pay attention to your surroundings, pay attention, and if things are funny, are different, there can be a possibility, and then you immediately start adapting. And of course, pray in the sense of not being there, doing the rosary, but actually elevating your thoughts, surrounding yourself with good thoughts, good image, to be open to be rescued, to be assisted. But in any case, even when we take those long trips, okay, I mean, you all know that sometimes, I have to go far to give talks and etc. After a night that I could, 12, 13, 15 hours, 20 hours between one airport to another, you arrive to another place and people are talking in a language that you do not understand. In certain countries that you go, you mean you don't understand anything, everything is different, or you walk on the wrong side of the road. All of those things, they are very disturbing
Mm-hmm.
at first. So imagine going to the other side. Right, there is no way we will not feel strange, even because uh, I mean, all of a sudden we are used to function on this physical body that is so much denser and coarse than the spiritual body. And all of a sudden you don't have that anymore. You're acting and relating without this. So the whole sensation, I would say, it's like if we had the opportunity of experiencing what they call the G-force. Do you know what G-force is?
Mhm.
When you don't have the gravity and the astronauts and your bodies feel light. I mean, it's the same funny, different, strange sensation. So that's no way we will not feel um,
Out of place.
yeah, yeah, out of place, exactly. But we can be so much better prepared in terms of, like you said, there are readings, there are, we know that thoughts and all of that can help us in this process. The prayers can help us in this process. And with that, and also the reading, people normally don't do that because first of all, they are so afraid of death. No one wants to think about it.
Yeah.
Second, there are so many people that do not believe in anything, do not want to believe at the same time that they would like something, that there would be something after, they do not know. And I mean, combining all of this together, the thing is we don't prepare. And because we don't prepare, we will find exactly what Joanna de Angelis is describing to us in this first part of our analysis. Spirits, they are completely uh,
Disoriented.
disoriented, lost, and that they to them is still much better to be among what feels familiar. They will be missing what they did. They will be trying to make us their intermediaries to fulfill uh, you know their needs. So it's very, very complicated.
Tara, I would like to say that we are
Yeah.
so blessed because the Spiritism teaches us that we're here and we're not here forever, and we're gonna go to that spirit world. And imagine if we had no concept of what we're learning, all about who we are as spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but we're here, we come back over and over again, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so clear to me to understand this because of all the teachings
Mm-hmm.
that we're here for a while, we're going to go on the other side. And so let's prepare, like Joanna Jansen says, it's so beautiful, that we have to prepare ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
because we're going to that side. Like you're saying, we're all getting there, we're going to get,
Yeah.
and it's a matter of time. But while we have this time, let's prepare ourselves. It's very hard, especially with your family. You try and explain these things to them, and they look at you with this weird look, like, why is this lady always talking about death? And it's not that. I'm trying to prepare them. Listen, I'm not going to be here forever. Try to understand that. But I think as time goes on, and if you talk about it, little things that when things come up, explain to them, they kind of get it. And now they come to a point that they say, "Okay, Ma, I know, but please don't tell us, all these. Look, I'm just trying to prepare you. You have to prepare yourselves for this.
Yeah.
I don't want you to go crazy when I go to the other side. I try to understand that. I need prayers. Pray for me, please.
Yes.
Cry. Do a little tears. If you don't cry, I'm gonna feel offended. Gee, these people didn't care about me." And
Yeah.
it happened that the other day I went for my physical, the doctor, and she's a very, my doctor that I have for 25 years retired, and it broke my heart.
Uh-huh.
So I have this new doctor. It's a lady, it's a female, beautiful also. So she speaks to me and she's telling me all these things, and she says, you're 76 years old, and do you have a proxy?
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at her, I said, I've been preparing for this. Yeah, imagine. But she says,
Uh-huh.
"Okay, I'm going to give you this application. You bring it back to me. You
Uh-huh.
have to talk to your family." I says, "Oh, I've talked to them about this all the time." And we talked a little about afterlife and death. And she says, you're very, you have something about you that comes to me that you kind of understand all about this. And, oh yes, I understand. I'm very spiritual. Yes, yes, yes. I wish I could have spoke to her and tell her, look, I'm a spiritualist and this is what I'm not going to get into that. But it was so clear to me. She understood, and she said, yeah, you're going to die one day, and prepare your family, and things won't be so shocked. No one will be so shocked. Yeah, you have to speak about it, and this is what we're speaking about it today. It's amazing that all these things are so important for us that when the time comes, we at least are gonna get help. That I am sure you spiritual benefactors are with us. We have our guardian angels, and God Almighty is there for us, and Jesus. So we have all these things surrounding us, and we use this every day. I'm sure it's not gonna be a shock. And for the ones that understand, I hope not. That's what I believe, and I'm so glad this fraternal commitment.
It's always going to be hard, but we can be as prepared, so prepared that it will be difficult, but not that difficult.
Exactly.
For those that stay and those that go. And I think this is the way we have to think about here. There is a comment here from Orlando. Orlando, you also say something about, holding the spiritual world responsible. Who is the spiritual world? Us.
That's right.
We are the spirit world. So we are responsible for each and everything. So unless we as spirits, as immortal spirits, we understand the situation, we will still be causing harm to ourselves because we are resisting, thinking broader. Again, we never say forget about your material life here. No, we are just saying there's more to life to that. And at the same time that you want to lead a comfortable life, a nice life, you also want a comfortable life, a nice life in the spirit world. And you should prepare better. So we are the spiritual world. I mean, we all have our opinions, our understanding. There is not and this is something that I love about spiritism, because everyone is entitled to their opinion, even me. But it doesn't mean that we are right. It doesn't mean that we are not going to change our minds, as we have been changing. The more we learn, the more we expand, the more we understand. Whether we have a physical body or not, we as spirits are responsible for what we are doing here in the physical realm and what we are doing in the spirit realm. So the more we learn, the more we understand, the more we will be able to do that. And again, just to give to close this now, in the same way that we have, parents, advisors, that all the time, people that, like us and cheer for us, that all the time they were there, do this, don't do that, because if you do it this way, you're going to get into trouble. And we ignored the spirits that are more evolved than us, that I imagine these are the ones that you want to blame. Why are they not doing anything? They are doing more than they can, but we don't listen to them. The same way that we don't listen to good advices that come to us, because we know better, because I don't know if this is exactly what I want to do, it is in my interest, or whatever reason, we don't follow. So they are there, they are here trying to do their best in relation to us, but we show deaf ears to them, and now we are going to blame them. It's like, sometimes now that I remember, I don't know if it happens with my son or anyone else's son. When we say to a child, "Don't do that, you're going to get hurt,"
Yes.
and then they get hurt pretty bad, and they come to you and say, "But you should have really forbidden me to do that." Then they want to put the guilt in you, that's your fault. You should be more mother or father and really not allow me to do that. If they break a bone or something like this. No, but I was too young to decide. You should have been more firm,
Yeah.
What can we do? All right. Okay, let's read something a bit more here. When you least expect it, the carnal binds will break, and you will re-enter the port of life in the spiritual plane. We were really delicate here, right?
Yes.
We will re-enter the port of life in the spiritual plane. You will be part of the population in which they find themselves today. Perhaps at this time, many of those anonymous brothers and sisters will have already returned to the flesh. Hence, it will be your turn to approach them. You will then understand what they feel today, what they would like to achieve if they could more ostensibly communicate with you. Do for them today what you would like them to do for your benefit tomorrow. Love them, involving them in vibrations of tenderness and kindness. And take care to enlighten your inner self through studies and good actions, avoiding unnecessary future afflictions. So she gave you the answer, right, Philip? What should we do? Enlighten your inner self through studies, good actions, and avoiding unnecessary future afflictions. So what she's telling us here is that, the cycles of life are like this. Today we are here, tomorrow we no longer are here. So the roles change, the place change. And when it's our time to return, like you said, Zoraida, you said to your family, please pray for me, help me in this transition, right? This is what we have to remember to do to them. Perhaps, if we think about, I don't know who is around here now, but whoever is here, I send you my vibrations of love, of peace. Try to elevate yourselves, to give up the opportunity to be assisted, to be enlightened. I'm going to read a very good book now. Who is going to follow me? Connect to my mind and learn together. I don't know, things like this that we could easily do, thinking about them. And it's hard because we all are going to have unfinished business.
Okay.
Right? There is always that person that we wanted to say goodbye before, that you felt that if you could have say, a few words before, that would change perhaps or help. Sometimes it can be, I'm sorry. Sometimes it can be, I love you. And those are two things that we don't say quite often. We don't show the love and appreciation that we have to others. And we don't like to show that we know that they were right and we were wrong. Those are the two most difficult things, I think, for us to accept, right? Because we feel that it deals with our pride. It can make us vulnerable. for whatever reason, those are things that we normally don't do that much. And then we will regret, why didn't I show more appreciation? Why was I always complaining and asking for more and not seeing what was already there, all the progress that was already achieved? And we have this tendency to do that. Like, again, talking about a little child that can come to their parents and say, oh, look, I fixed my bed. And then you go there and, like they fix their bed like a child. They'll say, oh, it's not good enough. Or we'll say, and what about the toys? Or they are always all on the floor. You see, without realizing, we are teaching them that it's not worth. There is always going to be something else that is not good enough, and that we are going to criticize that instead of saying,
Good
this
job.
is, what you did, to say something about the good things that they did. So it is hard. It is hard. And I guess many of us would say, I mean, I would like to go back as well, just to see if I could have more understanding of how all of this impact on the lives of others and in mine as well. But there is still time. We're still living. We're still breathing here. So it doesn't matter what we did in the past. What matters is what we are doing today and in the future. And the last impressions, right, are always the one that stays with us. So if we were not nice, if we have time to change that. But understanding that perhaps we will have to give time to others to really see for themselves that we are different, right? Any question, comments?
Sara, when do you think saying too much is too much?
That's hard, right?
Because you can tell by expressions or a word or two the person says, and you say, okay, I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to say anything, but then I'm angry because I can't get through.
I remember reading a phrase that goes more or less like this. It's better to keep your mouth shut and people think you are stupid than opening it and making them sure you are. It's one of those big names, okay? Because I like Abraham Lincoln, Benjamin Franklin, something like that, okay? I don't read phrases like that by no one, and remove any doubt. So sometimes, but it's so hard, right? So I don't,
very hard.
Yeah, I think that. We say too much, we talk too much, and sometimes even with the desire of helping.
Yeah, it's called putting the foot in your mouth. Isn't that? It's a saying. They say you put your foot in your mouth.
Yes,
your mouth shut.
It's really complicated. Yes. I have to say that I suffer from this problem. I don't know. Sometimes I want so much to help.
Yes.
And but I don't know if others see that as being help or just pure giving an opinion where you are not called to give an opinion. I try to be as delicate as possible. Yes. I always say, listen, I have a suggestion. But it's still, and it's hard because sometimes it's like, the errors just jump before my eyes.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard.
Well, we pray for assistance and
yes,
how something will come. Usually.
Mm-hmm. I was hearing some talks this weekend by Alvaro, that gave us talks for the United States Spiritist Federation, Alvaro Mordejai. And he was talking about the writings of the letters of Paul. There is something, like he was saying, there are more books written and studies about the letters of Paul than about, the studies from Socrates and Plato together, and, everyone, that all the theses and monographies and all those things. And I mean, considering that there were letters, they were only 80 pages. And we're still studying and having PhD theses about sometimes, just the letters that he wrote to the Hebrews or to the Corinthians. Like 5 years study just for that. You see, the more we evolve, the less word we need.
That's true. Okay. That's good. Yeah.
Okay, and so she finished like this. You will always be in life, submerged in dense matter or outside of it. Make yourself into an instrument of fraternity towards all, persevering with good intention, maintaining this fraternal commitment even under the high price of renunciation and abnegation. The permanent behavior of Jesus towards all of us through millennia has been no other. Oh, I love when she says here, we always be in life. So do we die? No. Our body changes. We change skin, right? Flesh. Okay, that we do.
Yes.
But we as individuals, our mind, as a spirit, we are all the same, regardless whether we have a physical body or we have a spiritual one. But the behavior we always have to pursue is that of enlightening ourselves, of always persevering with this good intention. Why? Because we're still not good. We're still trying to learn, to convince ourselves that this is the best course of action for us, this is in our best interest, and to go with that. And when we do that, not only we are going to be helping us, but we will be helping all of those
around us,
incarnates or discarnate alikes that are around us.
I think that if we focus on those few words, be an instrument of fraternity towards all, make a big difference.
It does. It makes a big difference. At this point, even if we couldn't be fraternal to everyone, it would be good enough. Sometimes we are not fraternal to people that are very nice to us, are very good to us. But imagine the day that we could actually, that would be the emotion, the sentiment that we will feel. You know, if it is hard for someone, it would be hard for me as well. If it is good for someone, it would be good for me as well. And us having to live with the disparity and all of that is very hard, especially if we can do something about to help, to reduce, to balance more, all of this. Any more questions or comments? We still have some time. Let's see what we have next week. Christ and Caesar. That's going to be a good one as well.
It's good.
Yeah, for next week. But I thought it was so interesting, when the way she talks here specifically about thinking of doing good, not only to those that are along the way, the physical life as we are, but those that have returned already and that many times we forget. How many people we know that we care about, teachers that we had, colleagues,
Mm.
um, parents of our friends that we met that were nice to us, even people from the Spirit Center. Do you remember Andre?
Yes.
Andre that
Oh,
used
I
to
love
go
him.
there. You
Yes.
know, how many times do we remember about him and say, "Hi,
Oh,
Andre, we miss you. It was so good to have you around. I
yes.
hope you're good in your new home and that you're still thinking about us. You know you were loved."
That's it.
So, and we think about your sisters, right? Soraya as well, and
And
thinking,
it's-
oh my God, Jenny, we miss you too, and Antonia,
yes.
and I
Oh,
mean,
gosh.
we have people already that were from there, our community that. Perhaps this is still connect with us, and sometimes we don't even think that much about them, and so it's good if
I,
sometimes we,
I always pray for Andre Luis. I don't know why.
yeah,
In my prayer,
oh
I say his name all the time. That's how much
yes,
he impacted me.
how nice,
Always speaking about Jesus. I
yes.
loved him so. Yeah.
Yeah, I love him so much. And Eduardo,
Oh,
that
my
young man as well. I mean,
memories.
yes, and there are others that came as well with us. Nancy, that was
Yes.
the the friend of Elmo and his mom, and
God.
and that would be very nice on our part to do that. Some of them, I hope they are very well. Some perhaps not that much, and those are the ones that Joanna de Angelis is inviting us here to think about, to have a commitment of being fraternal to them as well, not judging,
No.
because we could say, if you're still here, you're not good thing. Well,
No, 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 no.
yeah, yeah. Okay, anything else?
Yeah. Okay.
So let us do it, then end our meeting, okay?
Okay. Okay.